introduce myself. My name is Sylvia Indriani. You can call me Sylvia. I'm from Non-Formal Education of Ringsili. I want to tell you about the future of money. Let's start with a story about this culture that lived in Micronesia in the early 1900 called the Yep. No, I want to tell you about the Yep because their form of money is really interesting. They use this limestone, this called rice stone. No, the Yep then actually move this rice stone around or exchange them the way we do with our coins because rice stone can get to be pretty massive. The largest is about 4 tons and 12 feet across, so the Yep just keep track of who owns part of what. There is a story about the sailor that were transporting a stone across the ocean when they ran into some trouble, and the stone actually fell in. The sailors got back to the main island and they told everyone what had happened. And everyone decided that actually, yes, the sailor had the stone, and why not? It still counted. Even though it was at the bottom of the ocean, it was still part of the Yap economy. You might think that this was just a small culture 100 years ago, but things like this happen in the Western world as well. And the Yap actually still use a form of the stone. In 1932, the Bank of France asked the United States to convert their holding from dollars into gold, but it was too inconvenient to think about actually shipping all of that gold over. So instead, someone went to where that gold was being stored and they just labeled it as belonging to France now. And everyone agreed that France owned the gold. It's just like those raisins. The point I want to take with these two examples is that there's nothing inherently valuable about a dollar or a stone or a coin. The only reason these things have any value is because we have all decided they should, and because we have decided that they do. Money is about the exchange and the transaction that we have with each other. Money isn't anything objective. It's about a collective story that we tell each other about value, a collective fiction, and that is really powerful concept. In the past 2 decades, we have begun to use digital money, so I get paid via direct deposit. I pay my rent via bank transfer. I pay my taxes online, and every month a small amount of money is deducted from my paycheck and invested in mutual fund in my retirement account. All of these interactions are literally just changing is first and zeros on computer. There is not even anything physical like a stone or a coin. Digital money makes it so that I can pay someone around the world in seconds. So what kind of work does programmable money create? Imagine a world where I can rent out my healthcare data to a pharmaceutical company. They can run large-scale data analysis and provide me with cryptographic proof that shows they are only using my data in a way that we agreed, and they can pay me for what they find out instead of signing up for streaming service and getting a cable bill. What if my television analyzes my watching habits and recommended well-priced content that fit within my budget that I would enjoy? Imagine an internet without ads, because instead of paying with our attention when we view content, we just pay. Interestingly, things like micropayment are actually going to change the way security works in our world, because once we are better able to allocate value, People will use their money and their energies for more constructive things. If it costs a fraction of a cent to send an email, would we still have spam? We're not at this word yet, but it's coming right now. It's like wearing a word that is saying the first automobile, the first cryptocurrency, like the first car, is slow and hard to understand and hard to use. Money, like the horse and carriage, works pretty well, and the whole world economy is built on it. If you were the first person on your block to get a car with an internal combustion engine, your neighbors would probably think you were crazy. Why would you want this large, clunky machine that breaks down all the time, that lights on fire and is still slower than a horse? But we all know how that story turns out. We are entering a new era of programmable money. It's very exciting, but it's also a little bit. Cryptocurrencies can be used for illegal transactions, just like cash is used for crime in the world today. When all of our transactions are online, what does that mean for surveillance? Who can see what we do? Who is advanced in this new world and who isn't? Will I have to start to pay for things that I didn't have to pay for before? Will we all become slaves to algorithm and utility function? All new technology comes with trade-off. The internet brought us a lot of ways to waste time, but it also greatly increased productivity. Mobile phones are annoying because they make me feel like I have to stay connected to work all the time, but they also help me stay connected to friends and family. The new sharing economy is going to eliminate some jobs, but it's also going to create new, flexible form of employment. With programmable money, we decouple the need for large trust institution from the architecture of the network. And this pushes innovation is money of the age, where it belongs. Programmable money, democratized money. And because if of these things are going to change and unfold in ways that we can even predict. Thank you.